stressed, but I'm okay.
You're stressed,
I'm
though.
good.
You're stressed. Well, how can we de-stress you?
I don't know.
Well,
How can we?
we'll just talk
Let's
about...
do a case study, shall we?
Yeah, why don't we?
Maybe that will work.
Well, we can do that, but first of all, I've got to tell you, Victorian couples contemplating a new life in Queensland beware, your marriage may not survive the move. Brisbane is Australia's divorce capital. Did you know that?
Yes, I saw that in the paper.
The city is a federal magistrates court processing nearly 10,000 divorce applications last financial year. That's well above any other city. Despite the fact that Brisbane's population is less than half the size of Melbourne and Sydney, we still have, not by proportion, but we still have in actual numbers more divorces.
And why do you think that is, Peter, being a Queenslander? What's your view on that?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Well, I've had one divorce and another one coming, so...
Also, you're a perfect person to ask.
Oh, jeez. I don't know what it is. Don't ask it in my case.
Is it something in the air?
Yeah.
The weather, maybe?
Experts link Queensland's high divorce rates to new arrivals from interstate buckling under the pressure of starting over. Social commentator Mark McCrindle said the upheaval of moving tested many marriages. With the move comes the sea change, the new life, the new career, the new house and the new focus. It can easily strain the marriage, but also when people are changing so much about their circumstances, a divorce may also work with that. But maybe sometimes he goes on to say that when they move from Melbourne or Sydney, everybody thinks the sea change is going to be rosy, but it doesn't. And they think it might actually save the marriage because the marriage is struggling, and they think, oh, well, let's go to Queensland because, you know, it's beautiful weather, etc., etc. And it doesn't change. The marriage stays the same.
If there's those problems, they're not going to change no matter where you live.
No.
That's the reality.
I can't see you. I'm going to have to move that microphone.
Oh, that'd be a shame for you, wouldn't it? There we go.
It's
better.
It's awkward looking at just one eye. So anyway, that's why you moved to Queensland, because business is booming.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of litigation up here. A lot of people seem to go to court for some reason.
Do you find that's different to here, to Melbourne, do you?
I think there's more litigation up here, personally, but that could be because there's more people getting divorced.
Yeah, so more people up here don't settle it amicably.
Seems to be the way, unfortunately. I'm not sure why that is.
It is unfortunate because the only people that benefit from those circumstances are people like yourself.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, sorry.
No.
But it's true. I mean, it's true.
Well, look, unfortunately, it's probably the case. And, you know, the mediation services and the government, I guess.
Yeah, people should try and work it out as reasonable as they can, but unfortunately when there's so much argy-bargy, it's not that simple sometimes.
And most people try. They have to through the mediation process.
Yeah.
But
how does that work? That's the first step, is it?
Yeah, you have to go through mediation if you want to get parenting orders. And so most people do attempt it, but the quality of your mediators sort of differ as well, I think, depending if you get a really good mediator or you get someone who's maybe not so experienced. There's also quite a long waiting list for mediation as well, so people get frustrated because they're on a waiting list for 3 months.
Who provides the mediation?
It's funded by the government for the first 3 sessions, and thereafter you just pay based on income. But it's certainly a lot cheaper process than solicitors, but it takes a long time generally, which is very frustrating.
Messy, isn't it?
Very messy.
Have you got a hypothetical for us?
Yes, I do. It's actually a grandparent case. I'm sure Katrina's done these before, but this is one where the mother of the child died from a brain tumour back a couple of years ago, and at the time of the hearing the child was 7, so mum died when the child was 4. Dad's the full-time carer of the child. The mother's mother, who saw very little of the child after her daughter's death, applied to the court to have set contact with the child. And she initially wanted once a fortnight, but then she changed her application to once a month, plus some special occasions and so forth. So the question before the court was whether or not the court should allow Grandma, who had an estranged relationship with the father, to see the child regularly, or whether to accede to the father's request that the only time that she spend with the child be when he agreed with it, rather than having something set in stone.
Okay. So what was the daughter's relationship like with the grandmother, do you know? Or the child's relationship? Because
the child hadn't seen a lot of the grandmother, it was a bit estranged as well, but there was a family report done whereby the child was interviewed with Grandma and they got along okay, But clearly the child was affected by Dad's views about Grandma.
Yeah, okay.
And affected by that.
Yeah. And was there any history of, do you know what the grandmother was a reliable person, or did that come into it?
Absolutely,
Yeah. So really it was just that he didn't like her, and that often happens. She was the original mother-in-law.
Yeah, there was a huge issue when Mum died, I think, about, they were both mourning for Mother, and, it was just lots of family issues that happened at that time that they just hadn't got over.
Okay, so the judge had to decide whether the grandmother should be allowed to see the child on a regular basis, every second week, did you say?
Once a month.
Once a month, or only when the father agreed?
That's correct.
All right, well, listen, put your headphones on, because people 13, 13, 32 is our number. We forgive you. We know you're only just starting out in this game. You'll get used to it. 13, 13, 32. What do you think the judge did? Welcome to the show, Ted of Deception Bay.
Good afternoon, Pete. How you going?
I'm going well. What do you think the judge did?
I think the judge allowed the grandmother access to the child once a month at least, and on special occasions. I think I'm in the same situation with my grandchildren. I think the relationship between the children and the grandmother is different to the father and the children. I don't think they should be disallowed access to that grandparent. I think they need their grandparents, and I think the judge saw it that way.
Yes, well, that's probably the most reasonable you've ever been on this segment, Ted.
Yeah, I'm in a good mood.
Oh, you might do the dishes tonight.
No, well, I'll tell you what, I won't be in a bad mood until I taste my wife's cooking.
Oh, good on you, Ted.
Okay, mate.
How common are grandparent cases in the courts, Annette?
They're becoming more common.
Yeah.
They also occur where parties are still together and they have a fight with one of the sides of the family, and they don't let them see the kids anymore. So that happens as well.
And with more families splitting up, there's generally when two people split up, there's often some animosity with the grandparents on one side, etc., etc.
Yeah, because blood is thicker than water.
That's right. Yeah, and mother-in-laws have a history of. Well, I think that's just an old wives' tale. Mother-in-laws are hideous, but anyway. Georgia of Belbarry.
Yeah, Ted's opinion was very boring this week.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, he shouldn't have bothered ringing.
No, it was so sort of, as I said, reasonable.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. That's
we don't expect it. I mean, he's part of the whole act,
Yeah, no, that's why you take it.
He's the male chauvinist pig.
Yes, now, I've got a question before I give my professional opinion.
Yep.
The grandmother, it's the father whose side she's on? That's her son?
No, she's the maternal grandmother.
Okay. I don't think grandparents, if I'm right with listening and to everything that has been going, I don't think the grandparents get to have a say except for the child that's on the side of the parent. They don't. Well, that's my understanding, if I'm right.
Is that true?
Not necessarily. I mean,
okay. Because I just saw something on the TV that just said grandparents at this stage, there's no legislation to protect those or let the grandparents have that sort of right yet. Am I correct?
No, it is in the legislation that children have a right to know extended family members, including grandparents. But it's the right of the child, not the right of the grandparent.
Oh, okay. Well, then, in my opinion, then I think the court would ask the child what they want.
And in this case, the child didn't really have an answer. He was only 7, and he was very much caught up in the conflict between his dad and Grandma.
Isn't that terrible when they drag kids who would like that, eh? It really is.
Bad.
Okay. Thank you, Georgia. Is it Georgie or Georgia? Oh, she's gone. Georgia. Anyway, I would say the judge said that would let the child go to the grandmother on a regular basis. That would be what I'd say.
You're all wrong.
All wrong?
All wrong. Yep.
Truly?
Well, basically, because Dad was so estranged, and for the child to go to see the grandparents would be so upsetting to Dad, that would flow onto the child. The child would feel caught in the conflict, would know Dad wasn't happy about it, and because Dad is the primary carer or the only carer of his child, the court said, look, until that relationship improves between him and Grandma, it's too much of a risk to the child to order ongoing contact. But what the court did is say, look, this is a really sad case and we really hope that this will improve, ordered a heap of counselling and all of that type of thing to try to get the relationship back on track. And but that's all they could do. They had an expert opinion from a family report writer who said, look, this child's really going to be caught in this conflict if forced to go, once a month. And that's ultimately going to cause such distress for Dad that it's really going to impact on his parenting. And there are quite a few cases like that where the estrangement is so bad that that's ultimately going to affect the parenting of the the sole parent.
Yeah, tough decision, that one.
Very difficult. One would hope in that case that they would go off to their counselling and they would ultimately sort something out between themselves, and that's what usually happens.
Does counselling often mostly work?
It does, but again, in a case like this where they're so estranged, you wonder whether it would really help. And going through, $20,000 litigation probably didn't help, I suspect.
Wow, is that the... Oh,
well, I'm just guessing.
Yeah, just guessing.
It was in Newcastle. I don't know what they charge up there.
All right, well, you handled it well. Thank you very much, Annette.
Thanks, Pat.
Annette Lakey, of course, from family law specialist from Payne Lawyers. First consultation for 4BC listeners is absolutely free.
It is.
3221. See, 2044. I don't feel I can beat up on you. I don't know what it was about Katrina because I knew she'd come back at me. But if I beat up on you,
I'll just cry.
You might cry. Yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't because I knew Katrina wouldn't. She'd bounce back at me. So first consultation with Payne Lawyers absolutely free. 3221 2044 is the number. Thanks, Annette.
No worries, Peter.
See you later.